Welcome to the Drawbore Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Perry, a timber framer and licensed professional engineer. In this podcast, we will travel through the world in timber framing through conversations with timber framers, architects, engineers, and many other folks in the industry on their unique perspective in how shaping timbers has shaped their lives. Through these conversations, our hope is for folks of all interests, whether new to the craft in timber construction, designing, and engineering, or looking to build a home or other structure, or those who have been building timber frames their whole lives to gain new insights and perspectives through these conversations. Now, what's with the name Drawbore? What is a drawbore? Why is it used and what is it good for? That's a good question, young tenants, and follow along, you'll be sure to see. In short, it's a simple method offsetting peg holes within a timber connection to pull the connection or joint tighter. But this is our goal, stronger connections through conversations. This is the Drawbore Podcast, and I'm excited to have you along. We have a great episode today. With us is Andrea Cunito and Koji-san from the Kominka Collective. They have a great story. They're working really hard on saving some of Japan's history. We're going to learn a lot about Kominkas and what Kominkas are, their old history, and their framing techniques, and what this crew of folks is really trying to preserve over in Japan. So really, really excited and looking forward to sharing their story with you. This is the Drawbore Podcast, and so I named it Drawbore after the technique, the timber frame technique to offset the peg hole in the connection, because my intent is for this to build connections in the community, and we know that while it creates a strong connection, the drawbore. So that's my hope and my goal. So in recording this with you guys, and you're number one, so I super appreciate you guys being here. But why I'm here too, and like. The trip to Japan was so amazing. So for folks out there just listening to this, earlier this year, in April of 2025, we did a Timber Framer Guild trip to Japan, which, as we'll introduce in a little bit, Kunito and Andrea and Koji-san were so kind in guiding us around and seeing different things. But it's a super profound trip. Also, for folks out there right now, we're at the 40th anniversary for the Timber Framers Guild conference right now, which is huge, and it's all about community and learning from each other. And honestly, that's one of the main reasons why I got into timber framing, is you can't build a barn for the community without the community. So, Kunito-san, Andrea, and Koji-san, you guys are all part of the Kominka Collective. Yeah. So first, I would love an introduction, like who you are, how did you get to this whole stage in your life with the Kominka Collective?
I think, Koji-sanからじゃない? I think it's much more interesting. I think it's much more interesting to listen to Koji-san's story, but okay. I think our story, there's a lot of serendipity, I think, and connectedness, and community that has kind of come with our, how we became involved in this work, and essentially because we live in Japan. One of the things that happened that created our interest in preserving Japanese-built cultural heritage, which is disappearing in many respects.
So, sorry to interrupt. So Kominka, is for people that don't know, since we don't have pictures at the moment, sure. If you could go into a little bit of what Kominka is as well.
So Kominka means folk house or a farmhouse. In Japanese, and we use the words minka, which means folk house or farmhouse, or kominka, and ko means in this case old. So old folk house, old farmhouse, versus just folk house or farmhouse. And the terms are used interchangeably, and there's sometimes a little bit of debate in Japan about which is proper, or, do they have the same meaning? But I think generally people agree that they do have the same meaning. So you'll probably hear us say minka or sometimes kominka, but they mean the same thing. And maybe if I can just note that throughout Japan, minka or kominka have really different styles. So for example, in the mountains outside of Kyoto, they're going to have one kind of appearance. And then, if you go, for example, to Niigata, which has even more snow than the mountains in Kyoto, they're going to be built a little bit differently in terms of the roof structure and things like that. So as you travel throughout Japan, you'll see some have tile roofs, some have thatched roofs, and it just depends a lot on the climate and also the uses of these structures.
Okay. And then available materials too? Or?
Available materials, yes. Of course, as you can imagine, 100, 200, 300 years ago, the local carpenters were using what was available in the forests right in the community. So it could be pine, it could be, in some cases, maybe Japanese cedar, cypress, zelkova. In Japanese is keaki, which is a kind of Japanese elm.
Okay.
Which is very, very strong. Maybe in some places chestnut. Are there other?
No, there are many.
Yeah, so there are other various kinds of wood, but those are maybe some of the main ones.
And also, definition of kominka, technically, is all the time they don't use a nail and bolt nut and metal fastener, nothing. Because of the earthquake, when earthquake come, if the bolt and nut they use, that's stiff, but suddenly break down. But it must be flexible, so they cannot use the bolt and nut long time ago.
So that was intended initially, like they knew that, and they figured we're not going to use steel fastener.
To do that.
Okay.
And so they found out, best shape or best technique for the joinery, and for long time Japanese history. And this technique, kominka, is built with this technique, But 50 years before, Japanese building code suddenly changed. We don't use the traditional carpentry way. We have to always use the bolt and nut and fasteners, metal fasteners, same as Western, US. So that's the border. Kominka is the traditional technical carpentry method is used. And the modern house building, we can't use this method. That's kind of technical, definition of the kominka.
And also modern houses with the current building code need to have a foundation, whereas kominka were built in a more traditional way.
Is sitting on the traditional Japanese house, kominka, is basically no foundation. The post is sitting on the stone, and without any anchor, without any bolt and nut, and that's, once the earthquake come, the post or whole house is dancing on the stone, and that absorbs the earthquake energy.
It absorbs it.
Absorbs
Yeah,
it.
absorbs it, yeah.
Yeah.
And fall off every now and then.
Yeah, for off, that's okay.
And pick it up and move it over. If only we could do that now.
But now
Yeah.
we have to make the concrete foundation and the anchor and everything have to, be strong. Yeah.
So the goal with the Kominka collective now, what is the what's the plan with the Kominka Collective? What are you guys doing?
Well, I think what we want to do is build on the really incredible work that Koji-san and his father and great-grandfather and great-great-grandfather have been doing and started years ago of trying to preserve these really extraordinary old structures. That's our main purpose. And another related purpose is to pass on traditional Japanese building methods, because those are also disappearing. And then also to do what we can to contribute to the revitalization of rural areas, because these things are all connected. As the rural areas, as the population in Japan generally decreases, then also, especially in rural areas, aging population, and then young people maybe find it difficult to find work and then go to the cities, and then alongside that, Kominka are becoming vacant. No one to look after them or maintain them, and so the need for skilled carpenters to do that kind of maintenance has decreased. So all of those three things, I think, all go together. And Koji-san's family is just really, really extraordinary, because I should probably let him tell you this, but until there are 5, as I think was mentioned before, perhaps there are 5-generation family of carpenters and now architects. And the first 3 generations, and Koji, tell me if I'm wrong, the first 3 generations, they were building Kominka. And then the building code changed, and they're not able to build a Kominka anymore. And so now, they're still very, of course, they're a design-build company, and they do a lot with renovating Kominka, and also together with us, we work together, and if a Kominka is going to be demolished, which they are more and more and more at a really alarming rate, then if we can, the Koji-san's company disassembles and numbers all of the pieces of wood and makes repairs, and then I'm making it sound a lot easier than it is, and then relocates the structure in Japan or overseas.
So Koji-san, your you said great-grandfather was carpenter.
Yes.
And how does that pass down family to family? Is that just interest? Is that traditionally family to family how that
That's a good question.
moves from generation?
どうやって
そうですね。基本的に日本での大工っていうのは、父親それから祖父がやっていたらその子供が引き継いでいくっていうのは伝統的によくあるケースとして。
So a very usual kind of or traditional case in Japan is that if the father or grandfather is a carpenter, then they pass that on to their son. That's the way things have been.
そうだから私も父は設計士、
So his father is an architect, a designer.
祖父は大工だった。
Grandfather is a carpenter, was a carpenter.
だから僕はよく小さい頃に大工のじいちゃんから「お前は大工になった方がいいぞ」って言われた。
So his grandfather often said to him, "You should become a carpenter."
設計よりも大工の方が面白いぞって。
It's more interesting to be a carpenter than it is to be an architect or a designer.
Wow. I see this. We connected on the trip, and one of my grandfathers was a carpenter, a really good carpenter as well in the States, and the other one was an engineer. So here we are.
That's amazing.
And we connect. No wonder why we got along when we were on the trip. It's like we knew each other from across the world in a way.
Right. Yeah. Amazing.
So in the preservation process with Kominka, so you were saying that. How did you get into Kominka first?
It's sort of a happy accident, I guess. We've always loved old buildings, and we would spend too much time in old Japanese antique shops, which are just amazing, as you know, and love going out in the countryside and, looking at old buildings, old structures. And my brother's a design builder, a carpenter, and he was visiting, I think about 5 years ago or so, maybe 6 years ago, and a house across the street from us, a beautiful old house, but in perfect condition. The owner couldn't sell it. She was quite elderly, and she couldn't sell it, and it was creating a burden for her. And so she told us, my brother was visiting, and we went over to see her, to say hello, and she told us, I'm going to have it torn down. And my brother and also we were just astonished, because it's imperfect, very old, but very lightly lived in. They were tea ceremony teachers. And so my brother said, well, if you're going to tear it down, I'll disassemble it and put it and take it to Oregon, where we're from, and rebuild it. That's a terrible loss, to do this. Fortunately, as it turned out, she did find someone to buy the house, and now someone's happily living there, and that's as it should be, of course. But that got us thinking. We started researching and realizing that not only across the street from us, but across Japan, that these houses are being torn down. I think Koji-san was saying the other day that the estimate is about 130 houses are demolished on a daily basis. It's hard to know exactly the number, a little higher, a little lower, but between 2008 and 2013, 13% of Kominka were destroyed, were demolished. And that's the only research, I think, in recent history anyway, and it's not very recent, that the Japanese government has carried out. After that, it's gone kind of silent in terms of, the sort of national or all Japan, across Japan kind of research. So we became interested in this and became kind of quite concerned and started looking into it, and that led us to Koji-san's family, who are members of the Japan Kominka Association, and they had the Aichi Prefecture's chapter of Japan Kominka Association. It's a very, very large organization. In fact, right now they're having their national conference, just as the timber framers are also having theirs. A bit of serendipity, maybe. So we went to visit them, and just absolutely, really just immediately found ourselves, just in awe of what they were trying to do and respecting the family and, so much. And we spent probably, I don't know, maybe most of the day with them in Kominka, that they actually had, it was going to be destroyed, and they relocated it from Niigata Prefecture, which is about 4 hours away. They rebuilt it. I think you've seen it. It's a stunning structure, just absolutely beautiful. And anyway, our lives changed at that moment, really. There was kind of no going back. We just really felt so, that we wanted to do something, no matter how small, to try to, sort of curb the disappearance of these beautiful, extraordinary structures. And then talked with, at that time Koji wasn't there, it was his father, who's an amazing person, and started talking, and I think it was that day that he and we started discussing, well, if there's houses that needed, he was already relocating Minka within Japan, but we hit on the idea of, well, if we could relocate Minka outside of Japan, that might then also give people outside of Japan who really do respect and appreciate Japanese traditional building methods an opportunity to experience them, which is good. And it also might create, perhaps in a way, a bit more interest back in Japan about this, this beautiful built cultural heritage that's disappearing. So I'm sorry, that's kind of a long answer to your question.
I learned a word before the trip, and it sounds like you found your ikigai.
Ikigai, yes.
So I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
And then jumping on that passion. So what year was Koji-san's dad start relocating, and when did you guys end up getting involved in this?
お父さんは大体何年前
築年、そう今から10年前が初めてだ。
About 10 years ago.
Okay.
His father started relocating Kominka as a way to save them. Yeah, and then I think we became involved with what they're doing, their initiatives and their work, probably about 5 years ago.
Okay, so that the percentage that you said was between what 2008 and 2013?
13, yes,
So
yeah.
13%.
That was 13%. And building on that, Alex Kerr, who's a very, very highly respected Japanologist and also someone who has done just extraordinary work preserving Minka in very, very rural areas, and then doing that together with the local community. So it's, very much a community sort of ethos and community-driven work to save, these just really beautiful Minka in Shikoku and other parts of Japan. He then estimated from that number that even though there isn't any data available, there hasn't been research done, that probably in 2022, I think he estimated that there would be about 1.3 million Minka remaining. So that's 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We know that they're being torn down all the time because we're now with Koji's family. They very graciously have allowed us to, join in what they're doing, and so we're seeing this all the time.
What was the rate that you said that they were just demolishing homes?
I think Koji was saying that an estimate, and I think it's a reliable estimate, it comes from the Japan Kominka Association, which is made up of carpenters and temple builders and architects and construction company owners, across Japan. So they know what's going on. Koji has said, I think 130 houses are destroyed every day. And when they're destroyed, that means they're incinerated, they're turned into wood chips. Not only the house, but also the beautiful ceramic roof tiles are discarded. Things inside the house, it could be even, tansu and shoji doors and tatami. Everything is demolished. Generally, sometimes some antique dealers might come in and, claim some various pieces, but oftentimes everything is gone.
So essentially, like a cultural transition is kind of occurring.
Yes.
That's what it sounds like, and
Yeah.
we kind of had that in the States. I think between 70 and 150 years ago, I guess, when we became more industrialized and into World War II, where a lot of these traditional techniques were kind of falling away for larger, quicker, faster homes for people to move into in the city and away from the country. So it sounds like Japan, and also skilled craftsmen too, which is amazing. We're at the Guild Conference for year number 40, and the legacy that's behind that we're the backs essentially that we're riding off of to continue this in the States and move that forward is pretty huge. So what's the process like to purchase, demolish, or because you deconstruct, really? You don't demolish, you deconstruct.
You deconstruct, yes.
And then what is that process like? And then you're storing or building somewhere else.
そのプロセスはちょっと説明して。
築のプロセスは今さんの方が多分。
Okay. What's that process? 教えてください。
Okay. If we find out the owner just give up to keep the Kominka and decide to demolish, we just go to the house and to check the condition of the beams and posts. We say assessment. That's important. How is the condition of the materials?
So do you take engineers with you to assess it, or other architects or builders?
Yes.
Or
Mainly architect, not architect, the skilled carpenter from Toda company. They come and to check every material condition. And once the condition is good enough, and
If it's good enough.
if it's good enough and beautiful, and we decide to preserve material. That's the first step. And second step is, dismantling. And about 7 or 10 skilled carpenter come to the site. And first of all, they have to do the numbering, each piece of the material, parts, beams and posts. And because, after dismantling, nobody knows where it is, these parts, like a Lego, So before dismantling, they have to put all the material parts to label.
Label.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then, by hand, they take out the material one by one, of course using the crane, because it's heavy. And this process is, we say dismantling, that takes, 2-3 days. Because before I explain, they don't use nail and, a bolt and metal fastener, nothing. So just take out, dismantling. Easy.
And during
Not easy, but
yeah. And during this process, are you taking dimensions and redrawing? Is that
yes.
earlier, or is that during the process, or
yeah, during the process.
And that way,
Before process and during the process.
so that way you can match up label with
Yes.
the drawing concept and photo.
Yes, and take back to the workshop. Then we just do the, we just wash, clean up. Then by skilled carpenter, checking the material, every piece. If it's damaged or rotten parts, they do the repairing and sometimes replacement. That's that next step, and it takes several weeks.
And do you purchase the home to then demolish and take down, or is that is there a fee involved with that?
Usually no.
Really?
Yeah.
So you can just take it down and keep it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Because this house is not national treasure, building or kind of very valuable. This is farmhouse. This is folk house, and owner just keep. They want to keep it, but no way to keep it. So they decided to throw away. So we asked them, if we can, take, and they really appreciate. Of course. But of course, dismantling process is our cost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also the demolition process is our cost as well. And that sounds strange because we're dismantling, but there are parts like the earthen walls, those can't be relocated. There's just no way. So, there are parts where actually another team needs to be doing the demolition work. And then also in the agreement with the owner, they may say, well, we need the land to be made flat because we're going to create a new structure or something, or a parking lot or something. So that work is carried out by a demolition team and maybe some other people as well.
Yeah.
And that cost we have to cover.
Oh yeah, that's not so cheap for owner to dismantling or demolition. It's kind of about $30,000 US. So if we take this material, but we can do clean up everything. So for owner, that's good deal.
It's actually saving, yeah. If the house isn't being disassembled and saved, then they have to pay the demolition fee, which, if you, and I'm just guessing here, but if it's even more than, because we're already doing the disassembly, then that's probably even more expensive. So I think it's quite a nice kind of reciprocal relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And something that people sometimes ask us is, how do people feel? Like, for example, especially maybe if the house is going to be relocated abroad, how do the families or how do the people that, are, that it's their house, how do they feel about it? We've only had positive responses. People, are very appreciative, and they seem to be very keen that their house has a second life somewhere, and would like to know, where is it going, and that we're also very excited about that, about, if there's a way to kind of pass on the house's history to wherever it's going, whether it's going to be a Japanese garden, like a public garden maybe somewhere, or if it's going to be a private residence or an art gallery, that, the house's history goes with it. And then also the people who were the original owners, that they also are able to have information about what's happening. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah. And how do people end up finding you and what you do to start that process of building a new location or providing a second life for this home? How do they find you?
I think, again, that's related to Koji-san's family, because they've been doing this preservation work now involved in preservation efforts for more than 20 years. And Koji-san's father was one of the 10 founding members of the Japan Kominka Association, which now has more than 600 members and I think 60 or 80 chapters throughout Japan. So people often contact, actually more than us, they contact Koji-san and Koji-san's father. It might be, for example, a carpenter in Niigata, or maybe it's a temple builder in Gifu Prefecture, and say, there's a really beautiful house that's going to be torn down next month or next week. Do you think you have anybody that might like to have it, or, can you take it down and put it in storage? So usually it's that way. And if I might just comment that it's not only these farmhouses that are being torn down, but recently temples and shrines, and sometimes a dojo, like a kendo dojo, or even elementary schools sometimes. All kinds of structures, especially in rural areas, are being torn down. Related to that, if I also might comment, that, in 2019 or 2020, Japanese building arts, particularly, I think, woodworking, were listed as an intangible cultural heritage by UNESCO. So, against this backdrop of the world recognizing, how extraordinary Japanese woodworking is, and how extraordinary these old structures are, that they're being torn down at this rate it's just tragic. It's really, not to overstate it, but it's really unthinkable, and it's in the case of, especially maybe elderly people who are living in the countryside, and, it's enough of a struggle, to make ends meet in many cases, but to maintain their houses, and, it's really quite an uphill. It's really quite an uphill battle, and it would be, I think, my opinion, I guess, but nice if there were maybe more support from the national government. Regional municipalities often do have various initiatives and incentives to encourage people to move to their areas, and to, for example, in a town near where we live, if someone moves to the town and then, for example, they'd like to turn the Minka into a small library for the community, or a cafe or something like that, the town will pay for the renovation costs. So there are those very happy situations throughout Japan, but it's hard to find that information,
Yeah, so how do they find you? Is it just a Google search, or
About
the sort of the financial incentives, or about Minka that are going to be torn down?
The owner,
I guess both.
owner give up and demolish.
Yeah.
This is our member, whole Japan. Kominka Association member, we always exchange information. Their customer or the client decided to throw away. So these are information we get.
Because they know that Koji-san's company has been relocating Kominka within Japan for 10 years. And that's quite unusual. There are other companies that do it, but I think they're quite known for their preservation efforts. And they also know, these members of this association, Japan Kominka Association, they also know that Koji's family and Kominka Collective, that we're also relocating Kominka and other structures outside of Japan as well. So I think that's, correct me, Koji, もしこれが間違いだったら教えてください. But I think that that's the way, that his family is very respected in Japan for their work. And so it's natural that, a carpenter in, a faraway prefecture would know that this, that we're doing this and together with their company.
So like for comparison in the States, it would be traditionally, like if you know who Ted Benson is, in a way, for me to relate that relationship with what he has within the industry, it would be, I guess,
with their family, yes, because they have that history, they have the reputation, absolutely.
Yeah. Next step is the pre-assembly at the workshop. That means after dismantling, after more than 100 years, take out the beam, that's slightly moving and changing the shape. So even the numbering is correct, if we try to assembly again, that's cannot fit each other. So we after cleaning and we after process of the fixing, we do the pre-assembling at the workshop. That's one of the most important process, and tuning and adjusting by skilled carpenter. Then dismantling again and packing and put in the usually 40-foot container and sending to abroad by ocean freight.
Okay. Yeah. So that's if you're sending it somewhere outside of Japan.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you typically have somebody that wants to purchase it first, or are you taking it down and storing it and then waiting for...
Both. And also, we are not just relocating Kominka itself, because Kominka is very thin insulation, very dark, and not so clean. So for Western people, that's not so comfortable.
Well, for Japanese people too.
Not so comfortable. So therefore, what we do is usually we make a team. I mean, collaboration with for example, U.S. Designer or architect with the client if they want to use one of these materials.
One of these structures.
Structures. Then total competence architect, designer, and U.S. designer with client. How to use this structure, how to use this material for their new building, U.S. modern residential house, and we do the new drawing, everything, and that's one. We often do that, and also we need the U.S. engineer, because we have to pass the building code and for residential house. So we always discuss how to pass the building code using this structure. And of course, the residential house must be comfortable for people, and sometimes need floor heating, and usually US standard R30, very big insulation, very different from Japanese, wall size. So we have to modify, and also the door or window frame. Our Japanese window frame is like this, but that's not so good, comfortable for Western people.
Mm-hmm.
So must be change the Western style.
Yeah, they hit your
least-
head.
Yeah.
Or not see out of it very well, or yeah.
Yeah. And as you know, you came to Japan, and you
I hit my head a
visited-
couple times. Go to the bathroom in the dark.
So for modern US building, we have to always make a new design. That's the process.
And actually, if I may, not only for Minka that are relocated overseas, but in Japan as well. That if a Minka's relocated, the family or the people that are going to be living in it or working in it or whatever use it's going to have, would like to have more light coming in. So, there's some redesigning to make sure light comes in, and they'd like to be warmer. So, maybe some insulation in whatever renovation or redesigning work happens. So it's not only overseas that, this kind of reimagining happens.
And so, are you typically reusing just the roof structure, or the whole structure, or bits and pieces of it?
Yeah.
So you can use parts from one structure and parts from another structure in a brand new build, so you have multiple
Sure.
things that are collaborating.
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah.
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 And then, so how many have you been a part of so far?
Oh,
Do you know?
we built 3 in Oregon, 3 houses,
Mm.
Oregon, and we sent Boston.
A
and-
big storehouse together with our lovely partners, Kominka North America.
Yeah, the client are timber framer, and he's making his
Workshop.
Okay.
So he's
Yeah.
planning
Awesome.
to use this, huge structure.
And it's kind of nice because it's gone from being a workshop kind of space or storage space, I think for the silkworm production many years ago. Big, huge kura with beautiful joinery and beam structure. And now it's going to be used again as, something different, but, for people to work in and, be making something.
It's fitting that it's going to New England as well,
Yeah.
because there's the New England kind of ethos is to reuse as much as you can too. So especially from wood, the tree to new life in your home,
Sure.
and then transferring that to just giving it as many new lives as you can before it becomes firewood if you can. So
Well,
it's pretty fitting that it's also going to a shop. It's the same thing, and just transfer over.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
And-
lovely.
And I think that energy too, linking the two, and craftsman in a craftsman built spot.
Yeah,
It makes sense.
exactly.
We've
Mhm.
also sent, about a year ago, I guess, a very, very big Kominka to Jamaica, and which is now called the Jaminka. And that's also being reimagined because, of course, there's a termite situation, and that would be a very happy situation for the termites, but not so much for the minka. So there's some redesigning and some creative reuse. It's going to be used as a meditative retreat center by a nonprofit in Jamaica, and we've also recently sent a temple gate, and that's going to be rebuilt, I think, in the spring on the grounds of the Walawa Zen Buddhist Temple in Oregon, and we're preparing now to send. This is a really, really exciting thing for us because all of these structures, it was a little bit difficult to save them, and so we're very, very thrilled about this. We're going to be sending a large thatched roof Kominka, and then also a small shrine. And the shrine was going to be, both were going to be demolished, but the shrine was going to be lost because a dam is being built in the area. And then also a 372-year-old temple gate and an old bell tower from the same temple. Those are going to go to the Japanese, San Diego Japanese Friendship Garden and Museum, and be placed in beautiful places at the museum, or at the garden, which is exciting because it means people will be able to interact with them and learn about their history and culture, and so that's really, really happy about that.
So, going back into the process of getting it to the States, I imagine is quite the hurdle.
Yeah.
So, how many architects know about what you're doing? I guess, well, you won't know how many. But how do architects find you?
Yeah, that's important.
Oh, I can answer that. I'm sorry. I talk too much, don't I? Well, machigai-nai, I talk too much. But, I mean, what we've been doing for the last 10 days or so, we've been going along on the East Coast, a couple of seminars in Boston and a couple on Martha's Vineyard and then New York City. Now we're here at the Timber Framers Guild. We come every year. Then we'll go to San Francisco and have a couple of seminars there. So that's one way, by meeting people and giving presentations and talking about the situation in Japan. So I think that's one way that and also we do sometimes online seminars or events as well, and also events back in Japan.
And then the process, so the architect is sold, they have a client that wants to get the material over to the States to reuse. What is that process like? How is it really expensive?
Our experience, our client already have houses, residential house. They said not so different cost as the design build house. Design build house is not so cheap, but even they use the material from Japan and kind of complex structure, but total building cost is not so different from standard U.S. building, design build house.
So if I was to have a new timber frame built,
exactly,
then it would almost be it would be comparable to with the shipping over.
Included.
The shipping isn't a major cost. We thought it would be, but to the West Coast, it's for a 40-foot container. It's generally about $10,000. So we thought it would
does
be
a whole house fits in one of those containers?
A not very huge house, yes. If it's a huge house, then maybe the Niigata house, the Jamaica house was two containers. So,
what is the size of a normal Kominka?
That's a good question.
About 600 to 800 square foot.
No, it's bigger than that.
1,000, less than 1,000.
For a Kominka?
Yeah.
Really?
But sometimes, farmhouse is
really big. Yeah.
1,500 square foot size.
Or a second story.
Right.
Yeah, second story.
Does that include the outside, walking around the veranda too?
Like the
there are many
Ingawa,
Japanese garden. There's a beautiful stone lantern or things, they just throw away.
Yeah.
So just
So we put those in the container as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also important things is that we need good skilled, builder in US,
So that's where Kominka North America is coming into play for you.
Yes.
and also TFG,
Yeah.
we have good connection with TFG people. They have a skilled, carpenter.
And Kominka North America, actually, Billy Dillon and Adam Miller are longtime Timber Framer Guild members. They're both very active in the guild, and they came to Japan April 2024. We had one of the tours that we organized together with the guild, and at the end of the tour they said, we'd like to partner with you, and so that's really a game changer, because they are just so knowledgeable and so skilled. So to have them on the U.S. side and to be working together with them is incredible.
And so moving structures in Japan versus moving them to the States, how different is the modification process with the new codes in Japan versus the States? Is it pretty similar with the modifications that you need, or do you see it more is needed in the States? Or
I think similar, because Japanese new building code is just copy American building code. So, but thickness of the wall insulation and this detail, but of course materials in Japan or US is completely different.
And so these homes that you've worked on that you've shipped over to the States and have reconstructed, they're fairly recent, right? So that would be, and with the additional requirements that are needed, I'd be interested to see, because you had mentioned before, no nails or any metal hardware initially, and how things have settled and moved and were flexible.
Yeah.
Where now the current code is a little more strict, so adding more steel, does that affect the traditional connections in a positive or negative way, or nothing at all? I'd be curious to see how that transfers over time.
Yeah, that's true. But we are not relocating, or we are not the specialist of the museum, houses.
Well, that's not quite true, because the houses that are going to the Japanese garden are going to be built traditionally.
But not technically. Not we try to make the original technical house. We want to ask the client or architect or craftsman to use these beautiful materials and structure. But of course, a modern house have to pass the building code. So so therefore, American architect or engineer and Japanese designer always how to do that. So of course, we use the bolt and nut, to pass the building code, but invisibly, how to install this, metal fastener invisibly, but looks, authentic Japanese. Yeah, that's our philosophy.
I noticed one thing. So many people in the States who are interested in Japanese design have no idea what's going on with the joinery. Unless you take it apart, which the museums were amazing to go to take apart the joinery and realize how complex it is and how rigid the connection is. Because very often you'll see, we have hardware catalogs that we can use beam over posts, and it's very simple, which is what a Japanese construction looks like. But inside there is so complicated and so rigid that the simple design that we see in both of those is they're by far not even comparable. So I would say to anybody out there that wants a Japanese style construction, if anything, going to one of these and understanding what's really involved in those connections to either recreate or just reusing what's already been there, because that tradition would just be amazing to pass down. But yeah, it's way more complicated, I understood, diving into it than what people think. That was one thing that I was not expecting on the trip and opening, really playing with the connections and how things actually torque together and not just in plane sliding together, which blew my mind. And as far as craftsmen coming over, so you have Kominka North America that's helping you reassemble these structures in the States. Are craftsmen from Japan coming over to help with that too, or
sometimes? Yeah.
But as consultants, because visas, it's not possible to get a visa where, someone would be able to come over and build. So in the cases where a Japanese craftsperson is needed, because of, some really, for example, with a Japanese garden or something like that, where, really meticulous work, in that case, they're guiding and advising, but they're not actually doing the building.
First of all, we worried about that. How to, ask the Japanese skilled carpenter to come to abroad, to come to US and doing working, but we found out many, American skilled timber framers. There are many. They can make it, without us. So that's very lucky, and we found out this, connection, and we have many friends. That's very, very, very lucky.
Yeah. And have you gone to any other countries besides the U.S.?
No, but we're planning to go. Well, Koji-san has not sent Kominka to France, but he's been to France quite a lot, doing Minka-related, various conferences and things like that. So I think now we're thinking that, we would like to be doing similar activities in Europe.
Yeah. And Jamaica is not the U.S., and
True, yes.
And Jamaica is very tropical place. They said they don't install the wall, and so the design itself is Jaminka,
yeah.
and kind of different. So my dream in the future, every country have different taste and design. So when we ship out this material, they use Kominka material or frame structure and their own unique design, and that's not necessary to looks Kominka as it was, but new design and very modern and beautiful new design building. And I want to introduce Japanese people, say, using the material which you are throwing away, which you are burning, we can make, like this beautiful building, Probably Japanese people start to think, we can use this material.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that Koji-san and also his father talk about a lot, about, and I really admire that they're not, sort of saying, okay, these are kind of Japanese artifacts, or these are, they can't be changed and they shouldn't be touched by people who are from outside Japan, that they're saying, let's bring these beautiful, beautiful old buildings and, sort of reimagine them for various cultural contexts as a way to preserve them, as a way to breathe new, give them a second life, and also then generate interest in them back in Japan. I think that's really positive. One thing we never ever want people to think that that the way that we're trying to preserve Kominka is cultural appropriation or cultural appropriation. It's just simply that none of these beams should be lost, and none of these houses, none of this incredible, the skill that went into building these houses, it just shouldn't be lost. The history, it shouldn't be lost. But it may need some reimagining, to keep it. Getting to know Koji and his family and seeing that it's just really in their DNA, their love for Kominka. I mean, I love Kominka, Kunito loves Kominka, but the way that they love Kominka, it's coming from their, great grandfathers, and that's kind of, for me, been such a special experience to, kind of get a sense of, how important it is to them to have their ancestors, the work that they did, not forgotten and honored as it should be.
It's awesome. It's amazing. When I first got into timber framing, I had asked some architects about how do you figure out where to put the timber in that spot? And I think when you send over pictures, I can plug it into the podcast video as well, just to overlay. But some of these reimagined Kominka structures don't look like traditional Kominka timber structures, and there's wild imagination involved with that.
Yeah.
So if that's the plan, how do you know? How can you be that creative if you don't know how do you work with the material? Does the architect, do they ask you for, do you have a model of all this stuff? Is it overlaid? Like some of those structures, and I think the offices that we had gone to, extravagantly different than a traditional Kominka, though with very similar principles. So what is that process like?
That's amazing.
Using that material?
Miracle, because natural carved, material. So how do they reuse? So that's very important.
Yeah. So when Koji, when you're designing, how do you Short answer. We don't have a lot of time, but what is the short answer? If an architect is looking for that material and knowing that they have the option of either keeping that same structure as it is or reimagining, how do they know what they're working with so that they can define their space?
どうですか？曲がりくねったああいうのをどうやって使うようにはめ込んでっていうのはどうやって設計してどうやってやるんですかっていう質問なんだけど。
多分基本的に今の家と古民家の構造軸組みっていうのは変わらないので、そんなに難しい話じゃない。ただ職人大工さんのやってることは全く違う。そこの部分だけの差にはなるので、デザインするとかっていうのはもう元あるものを再現するだけなので、そんなに難しくはない。ただ職人さんの技術とか、時間かけてる時間は、最新のものと古民家っていうのは全く違う、非効率なのが古民家で、効率的なのが今の家っていうところかな。
どこにつなげるかどういうふうにやるかっていうのはもう大工さんが一個一個見ながら考えてやるしかないもんね。図面で落とせないもんね。
だから多分祖父がじいちゃんが僕に大工やれて進めてきたのは古民家の時代が続くと思っていたから、設計士なんかにはこの古民家できない、だから職人じゃないと古民家できないという観点で祖父は大工をやれって言ってた、今思うと。
Basically, timber frame structure, Japanese timber frame structure, is same as before and modern house, but the totally different is natural curve, beams and structure. Of course, architect and designer, they can design the very straight, structure and material and structure. That's easy, not so difficult. But once they try to think how to join each other, for new structure with this, curved beams, that's architecture and designer, they can't do that. So every single piece is a different shape. So skilled carpenter have to think, and they always try and error and make a new joint to the new beams. Yeah, that's the only way to do.
So there's a lot of interaction between the design team and the build team then to make sure I guess, the engineering team too,
Yeah.
for what's bending, what's contorting already,
Exactly.
and how you want to use that in the space, in its new life, in its new place, and not just in your model or your design. So I guess you're modeling more in square, and then you'll be more creative later just to define where things need to be, and insulation and wall thicknesses and windows and that sort of thing.
Exactly.
It seems like that's a pretty significant design challenge
Yeah.
in, and a variable material like that, and then bringing it to our modern scenario.
Yeah.
Everything's kind of tight tolerance,
Yeah.
but you need freedom to play.
Yeah. So 5 houses, before we had done, of course, Japanese designer and Japanese carpenters, and also American designer, architect, engineer, and timber framers. Everybody enjoyed a lot.
Yeah.
This takes a few weeks or several 2 months, but they enjoy a lot this process.
Yeah, I think it probably, as a timber framer, I would say when you can get creative and you become more of an artist and an artisan, that you're really showing off what you know how to do. And I think that's probably the connection between the tradition that you're passing on as well. It's kind of one culture touching another, and it's a really beautiful connection. Old home to new place. And
Exactly.
I noticed that because I worked on older structures too. So when you see how it's constructed in old chisel marks and those little chisel marks and edges that you have to replane, it's like you're connecting with the past in the present moment. I guess that would kind of be the Ichigo Ishii kind of concept of like, here we are, we meet again in this moment. And pretty beautiful when you're a craftsman like that to have that. Fine. Well, I appreciate your time stepping
it's a
away.
joy.
I know that you have busy things to do while we're here at the conference, so I appreciate everything that you guys have done, leading us on the trip and being here.
Well, we appreciate you, and thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah,
Very much.
episode number 1, Drawbore Podcast. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
Thank you for watching another episode of the Drawbore Podcast. We loved having you. If you're on YouTube or any other social media, you know what to do. But also, if you're looking for some more info and behind the scenes, consider joining us on Drawbore Podcast Patreon. We'd love your support.